Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you happen to be watching this. I hope you're having a great day. I know several students have to be gone for various athletic events, and so I hope that this is useful. Let me give a couple of quick caveats. I am not a professional YouTuber. More than likely, there will be times when these videos are interrupted by my cat jumping on me or the neighbor's lawnmower going and blasting a bunch of loud noise, or the dishwasher doing something it's not supposed to be doing because I said it wrong. I am not a professional YouTuber. I apologize in advance for all of the interruptions and for all the stammering and stuttering like you just heard. This is, like I said, or as the screen says, the fall 2023 class intro, and it is a hodgepodge. There are a lot of things going on. So let's get on with it, shall we? I have some basic assumptions about what should go on in a class, especially a composition class or writing class. Number one, everyone has a story to tell. And number two, people should share their story. I always add the caveat that just because it happened to you doesn't mean it's interesting, but almost everybody has interesting things that have happened to them throughout their day, throughout their lives, and they should tell their story, and they should tell their story well. If that happens, the story more than likely will be interesting and somebody will want to hear more. I have to critique the stories. Critiques of how the story is told are not necessarily critiques of the individual story. If, for example, I have told you a story, or I'm grading your story about your grandmother who recently passed and she was the most important person in your life, and I write comments about how the story is told and give you a C minus, I am not grading your grandmother. I am grading the quality of the storytelling. Or critiquing might be a better word. I think I'll get to grades a little bit later. The other thing that I think is really important is that humans tell better stories than bots do. I went to ChatGPT to see if I had a story out there, and apparently I am not a widely recognized public figure, and I have not gained the prominence necessary for ChatGPT to care about me. I gave them a little bit of extra information. Up until 2018, I was a high school debate coach. I've been a Mount Marty adjunct professor since then. They don't seem to care. And I think this is important. I'm going to come back to bots. I'm going to come back to ChatGPT. I'm going to come back to AI later on in this presentation. Some basics. First, anytime I think about the basics, I want to talk about John Wooden. John Wooden was one of the best basketball coaches who ever lived. 10 national championships in 12 years, 7 straight, an 88 game winning streak. They lost a game and then they went on a 50 or 60 game winning streak right after that. 664 wins, 102 losses. Perhaps the greatest college basketball coach of all time. All of that is, of course, arguable. But one of the things that Wooden did every year, the very first practice, whether he had a team of seniors, whether he had a team of freshmen, whether he had a team that was mixed between seniors, juniors, sophomores, freshmen, his first practice was how do you put on your socks so that you don't get a blister? How do you tie your shoes so that the laces don't come undone and you have to go out of the game? The best college basketball players in the country, able to put together 88 game winning streaks, spent 4 practices learning how to put on their socks as freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and learning how to tie their shoes as freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. I'm going to be doing basics. Ever so often, we'll talk about You need to do this to write a good sentence. You need to do this to write a good paragraph. I'm following John Wooden's example. This class is called Composition 103, the essay. I think it's important to remember that the term essay came about in the 1590s. It was an attempt, it was an endeavor, it was work. And allegedly, Mark Twain said, if the writer doesn't sweat, the reader will. You, as a writer, have a responsibility to your reader to not make them sweat, to make it easy to communicate. If you're in a speech class, they'll tell you that the communication is the sending and receiving of messages, that the message has to be understood. The essay is the same thing, except instead of doing it orally, you're writing it down. Textbook we're going to be using is John Green's The Anthropocene Reviewed. I don't know why Amazon seems to have only a large print edition whenever I submit orders. There's a podcast. You can see there, you can listen for free. It's, has a lot of episodes, but not everything that's in the book. And the podcast order is not the textbook order or the class order. However, if you want to listen ever so often instead of reading, or if you want to read and, hit the closed captioning part of the video, go for it. And again, I want to emphasize, not all the reading is available, and you are responsible for everything. Some class idiosyncrasies. I'm doing a lot of stuff twice, and let me just explain as we go here. All of the writing assignments will be assigned from and completed in Google Classroom. I'm using Google Classroom because making comments on an essay or making comments on a daily writing with Google Classroom, with the native comment ability in a Google Doc, is just easier than what's available on Brightspace. However, all of you have been told to go to Brightspace. All of you have been told to use Brightspace. So, essays will need to be submitted to both Google Classroom and Brightspace. That will allow you to double check any plagiarism, to double check anything like that, and see what the Turnitin function that's available on Brightspace will allow you to do. The writing assignments will also be posted in Brightspace. But remember, essays, Google Classroom, and Brightspace, everything else will just go straight to Google Classroom. There's a link to Google Classroom on the Brightspace landing page. Click the link, you'll get there. Grades will be posted in Google Classroom automatically, and grades will be posted on Brightspace manually. You'll be able to check both spots for your grades. I'm going to remind you ever so often to double check both spots, or to at least check one spot. Keep up with where you are. Also, read the comments I have on the essays, on the daily writings. The goal here is to get better as writers. The goal here is not just to get a good grade. The goal here is to get better as a writer. 3 things with Brightspace. You'll notice the Getting Started tab will have the Google Classroom link, as I talked about, the YouTube playlist where you'll be able to find this video, the tentative class calendar that may or may not change, and the syllabus will all be there. Content will have most of the assignments. Assessments is where you will be turning in the essays. The content will have the narrative essay assignment or the summary response, the daily writings, your writing workshop material. All of that will be there. On the assessments, you'll be clicking on the Dropbox link. The Dropbox link will take you to a folder for the narrative essay, for the summary response, for the final essay, whatever it is. And once you're there, you'll click on that, you'll open the folder with your name on it, and you will submit. I'm going to send most of my mass messages through Brightspace, although it really doesn't matter. They'll show up on an email anyway. Quizzes will be assigned and completed on Brightspace. I will announce any quizzes far enough in advance so that you can have the lockdown browser ready to go. A basic class period. I'll start a lot of class periods, or at some time during the class period, we will have one question, one comment. That's what the 1Q, 1C is. Or we'll have some discussion that demands responses. We'll talk about the assigned reading. You should anticipate writing every day. So we will do a daily writing. The rest of it will be sample editing and revising from old essays or essays from other sections. We'll discuss upcoming assignments, and we will discuss editing, revising, planning, pre-writing, and writing strategies. That'll be the basic class period every time. I mentioned the daily writing. Every time there's a class, anticipate doing a daily writing. If you're gone, there's a link in Google Classroom to get to the daily writing. There's a link on the content section to get to the daily writing. Please make sure that you have a daily writing ready to go. The daily writing, by the way, is not due at 4 p.m. It's due at 11:59 p.m. and the date it was assigned. This is cut and paste from last year's. Ironically, we're going to be doing the same prompt, but the dates are going to be, or the time is going to be 11:59. There'll be 6 major essays. You can be as short as you want, 2 to 3 pages. I think to make it an essay, you got to get to that 2 or 3 page length. And you can be up to 5 pages. I'm not asking you to write War and Peace. The purpose of this slide in a lot of ways is just to tell you that all of the essays will be worth equal weight. They are also worth 50% of your final grade. The in-class writings are worth 15% of your final grade. And as I'm going through this, I should tell you that I hope to be able to grade the daily writings fairly easily unless I find people taking too many shortcuts or just not considering the prompts carefully. But for the most part, everybody should be able to be well above 90% on the daily writings. Conferences there or slash writing labs, there are 2 of them scheduled. Those, again, it's show up, have at least a portion of a rough draft ready, and you should be again at 90% minimum. And the random college stuff is 20% of the final grade. It's a hodgepodge of stuff. You'll see when it's going to go into that category. Grading scale. Papers, I like having letter grades with A minuses, C minus, D's, whatever. And you'll notice that 60% is the lowest D. If I give you an A on the paper, I'm recording 97 just because I realize that it is somewhat arbitrary, but it seems to work. If I give you an A minus, it'll be a 92. The B plus, C plus, D plus are all 88, 78, 68. And again, this is all in the syllabus. If you're not in class, let me know as soon as possible. I appreciate those of you who let me know on this first day of class that you weren't going to be here. I am not on all of the mailing lists because I teach part-time. And so please be responsible and let me know as soon as possible. Do the daily writing. Always do the daily writing. The slides that are used as class notes will be made available as a quick and dirty YouTube video. Those of you watching this video know that it's quick and dirty. People in class will be told that it's quick and dirty. Nonetheless, The YouTube video will be posted and it will be on the D2L/Brightspace landing page. Unexcused absences may reduce your grade. Please remember that. I have to keep track of absences for the registrar's office, other bureaucratic elements of the Mount Marty um, structure want me to keep track of absences. So if there's unexcused absences, it may well reduce your grade. The writing workshops. You've got 4 or 5 students who will report to class. The list of students who will attend each session is going to be posted on the Getting Started space and Brightspace. Those students and the instructor will work together on essays in progress or essays that have been submitted and then graded. The 2 that are scheduled are to get started on the essays that are going to be due after the writing workshop. Students not in the classroom are going to watch a video or a slides presentation and do a daily writing. That daily writing is going to be worth more points than a regular daily writing, and it may well be in the random college stuff, not in the daily writing section. If you have questions, please ask. My office is B215A. I'll be there after my 8 o'clock class until about noon. I want to take a couple minutes to kind of eat and relax with the door closed. I have a 12:30 class and a 2:30 class that gets over at 3:15. You might have to give me a minute or two to get down there, and then I'll hang around for about a half hour. And if none of those work for you, please talk to me. We'll make an appointment. We'll go from there. Quickly on plagiarism. You've got responsibilities to give credit where credit is due. You don't get to steal money. You don't get to steal cars. You shouldn't get to steal intellectual property without acknowledging the source. If you claim as your own the words, research, creative work of others, that's plagiarism. If you are following their format too closely as you paraphrase, that too is plagiarism. You can buy essays from an online essay mill. You can pay someone else to write. You can sneak into your roommate's computer, copy and paste their work, and submit it as your own. And using AI to generate the words put on the page also is plagiarism. Accidentally, if you didn't clearly indicate the source, if you use a paragraph that's too close to the original, as I mentioned before, if you leave out the in-text reference for a quotation, all of those are also plagiarism. Obviously, there's common knowledge. Custer was killed at Little Bighorn. You don't need to cite that. If it's in every introductory textbook or you remember it from 4th grade, you probably don't need to cite it. Importantly, this class does not have a research component, so most of the writing you submit should be data that meets the 2 exceptions noted on the previous slide. However, if you quote Green from the textbook, if you quote somebody else from the daily writings and put it in one of your papers, you need to place it in quotation marks, you need to have the proper author tags, you need to have the proper in-text citation. Please don't plagiarize from canned sources. Please don't use AI. From the syllabus, plagiarized work receives a 0, and I will use Turnitin, I will use Google Classroom, I will use Winston AI, I will use any other sources that I feel will help me keep track of bots and AI. Maxims. How I want the class to run. A maxim is a short, pithy statement expressing a general rule of conduct. And remember, I warned you about the lawnmower. I think this is the weed trimmer, but I'm sure you can hear it. Maxim number 1. Don't attribute to malice that which can be attributed to ignorance. I'm not out to get anybody. I don't know if you've had a bad day. I don't know a lot of things going on in anybody's lives except mine. If there's a problem, I probably don't know about it. Come talk to me. I don't believe I'm out to get anybody. Please apply that to all of your students, fellow students as well. Don't take dull for an answer. When we're having a class discussion, I agree with so and so is a pretty boring response. Please, if you start that way, please give new reasons. Please give something new to supplement what the person says. Don't just repeat what everybody else says. I'm going to be pretty hardcore about being concise, about using active voice, about creating a voice that engages. And one of the most important things to do there is to omit needless words. And yes, I stole that from Strunk and White. I freely admit it. I firmly believe that readers can write and BS better than those who claim to be natural BSers. Read. The more you read, the better you can communicate. The fact that experts are fallible does not mean that the opinion of non experts should be preferred over an expert's analysis. If we're going to quote people, let's make sure they know what they're talking about. This should wrap it up for today. I hope everyone has a great day. I hope to see you back in class soon. And again, if you have any questions, stop and see me at B215A. Have a good one.